back on TYT. Cenk, Uygur, and Kasparian covering State of the Union. We're going to have the Republican response in just a couple of minutes, and then we'll have a progressive response. The Working Families Party picks the progressive response. I don't know why they get to pick it, but I like that they took initiative and started doing a progressive response. I think that's smart. Yeah. So thank you, because very few people cover it. Obviously, we'll try to cover it if it makes sense within the coverage here, which is very, very likely. But for whoever covers it, at least you're getting your voice out there. So good job on coming up with that idea and executing it. So here when anybody else steps up. And normally when we come back from break, I thank new members that join on YouTube by hitting the join button below. But in this case, I'm going to give a shout out to Left is Best, who's now 4-year member on YouTube. Okay, so hell of a thing. Thank you. You're awesome. It might have been the first member, I don't know, on YouTube. We've got members like Bob Freeman, who's been a member, I think, for 17 years on TYT.com. But great to have all of you guys here, and obviously breaking down the State of the Union, guys. State of the Union speech for you guys. And I'm just going to read a couple of comments here, and then we'll get back into our commentary. X-Dog JB said, hey, why is McCarthy not wearing a flag on his lapel? Isn't it funny that every once in a while they pretend to care about that and then they forget, and then they'll bring it back though? Like, you'll see, anytime from 6 to 18 months from now or 24 months, they're like, oh yeah, Biden's not wearing a flag or something or whatever it is, they'll invent it.
I'm banning pins, okay? All pins, all the pins, they're all banned.
Unless
every single one of them.
Unless you're gonna use it to pop Chinese spy balloons. Okay,
even those, they're all banned.
Oh,
okay?
Damn it, they're banned.
Elizabeth Warren's crayon pin, I think it's weird, banned.
Yep, a bunch of the Democrats had it. I assume it's for teachers, I don't know.
I don't know, but I think it's weird, banned.
Banned. The Republicans, if you remember a couple of days ago, had assault rifle pins, including George Santos wear too. Oh, this is the one where the weapon we use for massacres. I assume that Elizabeth Warren and the other Democrats did the crayons as kind of a juxtaposition. Yeah. You're for the people who are doing the killings, we're for the people who are doing the teaching and the saving.
That's right. Enough with the theater. You guys are legislators, so if you want to show the American people what you stand for, legislate.
Okay, Eileen with the most important comment here. Oh, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. So I'll come back to this. Let's watch it.
Being a mom to 3 young children taught me not to believe every story I hear. So forgive me for not believing much of anything I heard tonight from President Biden. From out of control inflation and violent crime to the dangerous border crisis and threat from China. Biden and the Democrats have failed you. They know it and you know it. And it's time for a change. Tonight, let us reaffirm our commitment to a timeless American idea that government exists not to rule the people, but to serve the people. Democrats want to rule us with more government control, but that's not who we are. America is the greatest country the world has ever known because we're the freest country the world has ever known.
So free that we ban adults from getting gender-affirming care.
And resilient. 5 months ago, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. It was a hard time for our family, particularly our kids, Scarlett, Huck, and George. But we kept our faith and persevered. Thanks to exceptional doctors here in Arkansas, a successful surgery, and the grace of God, I am cancer-free. Through it all, I couldn't help but think about my mom. She was 20 years old and into her first year of marriage when she was diagnosed with spinal cancer. The doctors told her she might not live, and if she did live, they said she'd never walk again. And if she did walk, she'd definitely never have children. The daughter she was told she'd never have was just sworn in as the new governor of Arkansas and is speaking to you tonight. Adversity and fear of the unknown can paralyze us, but faith propels us to charge boldly ahead. We can't stand still in the face of great challenges. You and I were put on this earth for such a time as this, to charge boldly ahead. I'll be the first to admit, President Biden and I don't have a lot in common. I'm for freedom, he's for government control. At 40, I'm the youngest governor in the country. And at 80, he's the oldest president in American history. I'm the first woman to lead my state, and he's the first man to surrender his presidency to a woke mob that can't even tell you what a woman is. In the radical left's America, Washington taxes you and lights your hard-earned money on fire. But you get crushed with high gas prices, empty grocery shelves, and our children are taught to hate one another on account of their race, but not to love one another or our great country.
It's a good thing
Whether
Biden
Joe
reached out to
Biden
these guys.
believes this madness,
exactly.
or is simply too weak to resist it, his administration has been completely hijacked by the radical left. The dividing line in America is no longer between right or left. The choice
is between right and wrong.
Normal or crazy. It's time for a new generation of Republican
absolute freaking lunatics. Hey, Loon, tell us more about who's sane. Anyway, keep
executive
going.
orders to ban CRT, racism, and indoctrination in our schools. Eliminate the use of derogatory term Latinx in our government. Repealed COVID orders and said never again to authoritarian mandates and shutdowns. Americans want common sense from their leaders. But in Washington, the Biden administration is doubling down on crazy. President Biden inherited the fastest economic recovery on record, the most secure border in history, cheap, abundant, homegrown energy, fast rising wages, a rebuilt military, and a world that was stable and at peace. But over the last 2 years,
the military budget.
Democrats destroyed it all.
Destroyed God.
Despite Democrats' trillions in reckless spending and mountains of debt, we now have the worst border crisis in American history. As a mom, my heart breaks for every parent.
Borders crisis. I mean, I would love to see those bookstores back.
100,000 Americans a year are now killed from drug overdoses, largely from fentanyl pouring across our southern border. Yet the Biden administration refuses to secure the border and save American lives. And after years of Democrat attacks on law enforcement and calls to defund the police, violent criminals roam free, while law-abiding families live in fear.
A lot of them are in Congress.
Beyond our border, from Afghanistan to Ukraine, from North Korea to Iran, President Biden's weakness puts our nation and the world at risk. And the president's refusal to stand up to China, our most formidable adversary, is dangerous and unacceptable. President Biden is unwilling to defend our border, defend our skies, and defend our people. He is simply unfit to serve as commander-in-chief. And while you reap the consequences of their failures, the Biden administration seems more interested in woke fantasies than the hard reality Americans face every day. Most Americans simply want to live their lives in freedom and peace. But we are under attack in a left-wing culture war we didn't start and never wanted to fight.
You guys have nothing but a culture war. That's all they ever freaking talk about.
Their flags and worship their false idols. All while big government colludes with big tech to strip away the most American thing there is, your freedom of speech.
You guys are banning books.
It's crazy and it's wrong. Make no mistake, Republicans will not surrender this fight. We will lead with courage and do what's right, not what's politically correct or convenient. Republicans believe in an America where strong families thrive in safe communities, where jobs are abundant and paychecks are rising, where the freedom our veterans shed their blood to defend is the birthright of every man, woman, and child. These are the principles Republican governors are fighting for, and in Washington, under the leadership of Senate Republicans and Speaker Kevin McCarthy, We will hold the Biden administration accountable. Down the street from where I sit is my alma mater, Little Rock Central High. As a student there, I will never forget watching my dad, Governor Mike Huckabee, and President Bill Clinton hold the doors open to the Little Rock Nine. Doors that 40 years earlier had been closed to them because they were Black. Today, those children once barred from the schoolhouse are now heroes memorialized in bronze at our State House. I'm proud of the progress our country has made, and I believe giving every child access to a quality education, regardless of their race or income, is the civil rights issue of our day.
Is that what privatizing
Tomorrow,
education does?
I will unveil an education package that will be the most far-reaching, bold, conservative education reform in the country.
Which will gut public
My plan
education and
empowers
destroy
parents
opportunity for
with
the poor
real
middle class.
choices, improves literacy and career readiness, and helps put a good teacher in every classroom by increasing their starting salary from one of the lowest to one of the highest in the nation. Here in Arkansas
Until the
and across
shareholders
America,
are uncomfortable with
Republicans
it.
are working to end the policy of trapping kids in failing schools and sentencing them to a lifetime of poverty. We will educate, not indoctrinate our kids, and put students on a path to success. It's time for a new generation to lead. This is our moment. This is our opportunity. A new generation born in the waning decades of the last century, shaped by economic booms and stock market busts, forged by the triumph of the Cold War and the tragedy of 9/11. A generation brimming with passion and new ideas to solve age-old problems. A generation moored to our deepest values and oldest traditions, yet unafraid to challenge the present order and find a better way forward. If we seize this moment together, America can once again be the land of the free and the home of the brave. During my 2.5 years at the White House, I traveled on every foreign trip with the president. A trip I will never forget was on December 25th of 2018. My husband Brian and I had just cleaned up wrapping paper that was shoved into every corner of our house, thanks to our 3 kids. When I had to walk out on my own family's Christmas, unable to tell them where I was going that night, because the place I'd be traveling was so dangerous, they didn't want anybody to know that the president was going to be on the ground, even for a few hours. We boarded Air Force One in complete and total darkness. There were no lights on the plane,
We like it.
no
Darkness.
lights on the runway.
See, darkness is your ally.
Phones and computers shut down and turned in. We were going completely off the grid.
You're born in it.
Nearly 12 hours later, in the pitch black of night, we landed in the war-torn part of Western Iraq. It was again a similar scene. No lights on the plane, no lights on the runway.
What is this plane ride she's
The only
talking
thing
about?
you could see
Well,
was
they
coming
went
from about a
to see the
mile
troops
away.
on Christmas, and she's bragging
Dining
about
hall
it.
were hundreds of troops who were in the fight against ISIS.
They only stayed for a
Had
couple
gathered
hours, which she
expecting
admitted,
to
because they were
celebrate
so
Christmas
scared.
with senior military leadership from around the region. They had absolutely no idea that the president and first lady were about to walk into that room.
Oh my God.
And when they did, it was a sight and a scene and a sound
I'll never
I
forget.
hope I never forget. The room erupted. Men and women from every race, religion,
Did Trump call
and
them
region,
suckers and losers?
every political party, every demographic you can imagine, started chanting in perfect unison, over and over and over again.
USSR.
USA.
No, wait. You go.
USA. USA.
USA.
Absolutely
USA.
perfect picture
USA.
of what makes our country great. One of the young soldiers yelled from the back, "Mr. President, I re-enlisted in the military because of you." And the president said,
"You're a sucker.
Son, I'm here because of you." Shortly after,
And I gotta
That
go.
never happened, by the way.
up to me.
I don't believe that for a second.
He said, "Sarah, you have a tough job." I told him, "What I do is nothing. You take bombs and bullets. That's a tough job."
Yeah, that's why you guys
And in a
left
moment
2
that I
hours.
know I'll cherish for the rest of my life, that soldier reached up and he pulled the Brave Rifles patch he wore on his shoulder, and he placed it into my hand, a sign of ultimate respect. And he said, "Sarah, we are in this together." Overwhelmed with emotion and speechless, I just hugged him with tears in my eyes and a grateful heart for our heroes who keep us free. That young man and everyone who has served before him, all of those who serve alongside him, and the thousands we know who will be called upon to serve after him, deserve to know they have a country and a community back home doing our part in the fight for freedom.
It's interesting. This is very Republican
is
Party
great
circa
because we are
2002,
free.
right?
Yeah.
Today,
I don't know if this is going to
Our
resonate
freedom
with
is
the
under
Republican
attack.
base.
and the America we love
Interesting point.
is in danger. President Biden and the Democrats
Yeah, Frank.
have failed you.
We're in the
And
darkness.
it's time for a change. A new generation of Republican leaders
Ghouls and
are
goblins.
stepping up, not to be caretakers of the status quo,
But to give everything
but to be
to
change
giant
makers
companies
for the
and
American
corporations.
people. We know not what the future holds, but we know who holds the future in his hands. And with God as our witness, we will show the world that America is still the place where freedom reigns and liberty will never die. Thank you. God bless you. And God bless America.
And that was Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the new governor of Iowa.
And God,
Part.
nice job, Mark. And God bless multinational corporations
Yeah.
who we work for.
So there was no specificity in that Republican response to Biden's State of the Union, except for one thing, which was we're going to privatize public education. And that was it.
Yeah.
Everything else was like weird personal anecdotes that I'm not sure I believe ever happened.
There was two things in the speech. Okay, first of all, I'm calling this the darkness speech. Okay, and so and it relates to both parts. So Biden does a speech where he's like, "And my Republican friends, we passed these bills together," which isn't even true. He's giving them credit they didn't deserve. He said, "Oh my God, we're so bipartisan and wonderful, my Republican friends." Right? She comes out and she's like, "Biden is gonna get you all killed." Okay,
He's not even exaggerating.
not exaggerating. I wrote down quotes. Hold on. I'm for freedom. He's for government control. She said. Oh, she started with a speech with Biden is a failure. He's trying to. This is always what happens with Democrats, especially with Biden. He reaches out. He's like, "Do we have a deal? Do we have a deal?" They're like, and they reach out and they go, "What?" And they slap him across the face.
That's
right?
an open-handed stop, boy.
Yeah, you gonna do anything about that? She went on to say, he surrendered to a woke mob. He's completely hijacked by the radical left. And he's for authoritarianism, and they're robbing you. And she said, and they're doubling down on crazy.
Okay. That was my favorite line.
Yeah,
Okay?
especially because she looked crazy saying it.
It was so absurd that you can't not laugh at that.
Yeah, President Biden's weakness is jeopardizing national security. He's unfit to serve as commander-in-chief. Those are quotes, okay?
Yeah, yep.
Meanwhile, Biden's like, my friends, my Republican friends.
Totally.
We worked on all of this together. They're like, boo, shut up, right? And he's like, please, I'm begging you. Social Security and Medicare, boo. Okay, you won't cut it. I heard that you won't cut it. Friends again, right? She's like, he's a demon. Okay. So the demon part's not a direct quote. I'm being fair. Okay. So now the second part of the darkness speech is that she goes to this very Republican thing, American I can't spit it.
Iconoclast?
No, iconography. I can't say it. Iconography, thank you. At least our stage manager can speak English. Okay, so anyways, so this is very standard in politics, right? She talks about Christmas morning with the kids and the wrappers are stuffed everywhere. And she said freedom about 28 times in a short speech, right? Freedom and liberty, and we got Christmas presents, and we got 3 kids, okay? And then, I couldn't tell them why, but I had to leave in the darkness. And she talked about the darkness for felt like 40% of the speech. It was really dark. She couldn't see anything. Okay, and I was getting a Bane vibe off of it, right? And as we were doing play-by-play, I was like, you think darkness is your ally? I was born in it, raised in it. You merely adapted it. I can keep going.
I know, and it's
okay. So anyway, and then that was all supposed to lead up to, and she accidentally said it too. We went to the most dangerous place on earth, in Iraq, where we have our troops. She's like, we were there for a couple of hours. Oh, this whole gigantic heroic speech is about you landed and didn't tell anyone because you were had depends on. You were all so afraid, right? And whereas our troops have been there for years and years and years, whether it's Iraq, Afghanistan, etc., right? And then she's like, we put on our adult diapers in the darkness, and we're so afraid that we'd have to we're all chicken hawks and we never serve. And Trump has said that people are suckers and losers who serve, but we put on our adult diapers anyway. And we went there and we stayed for a couple hours, maybe not so much, maybe a little shorter, but still, okay? But it was dark when we arrived. But then they started chanting, and I was like, gee, I wonder what they're gonna chant. USA, USA, they chanted.
But she didn't even say it like that. USA. 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 Okay. Did you guys really think that was a good idea to put in the speech? Okay, whatever.
And then we went back on plane. It was dark again. We checked our depends. That was also dark, very dark.
Oh. Look, I'm really, really curious how that played with the Republican base.
They loved it.
You think they loved it? Because the whole support, the faux support for the troops, and the focus on militarism and all that stuff, that is very reminiscent of the Bush era.
Yeah.
And the Republican voters have really moved away from that for good reason, because they've seen their sons and daughters victimized by the forever wars in the Middle East and all of that. So that's the one area where I think there's a positive development with the Republican voters, right? Where they realize that this whole military-industrial complex, the need to funnel money to defense contractors, they're privy to that now. So I think that look, this is the thing with the Republican Party. Their policies are not popular, which is why they lost their minds when Biden called them out on wanting to cut Social Security, right? So what they focus on is culture war stuff. And for some reason, I don't know, Sarah Huckabee Sanders forgot that it's 2023, not 2002, and decided to jump right back into the militarism stuff. I don't know if that's gonna play well.
So that's part of the iconography that I was alluding to. Then you've got the soldiers, and you've got the bravery, and you've got the home of the brave, and then talking about the local communities and the churches, and it paints a picture for you, but none of it is real, right? So they passed giant defense bills and didn't really raise the wages of the actual servicemen, right? So she talks about how they ate Christmas dinner together or whatever, but she doesn't tell you, oh, I got Lockheed Martin $800 billion, but I got you nothing, okay? Because Lockheed Martin and Raytheon pay my bills and you don't. You're just a random guy we sent out here to die, okay? And who Trump definitively called suckers and losers.
Yeah.
His own chief of staff said that. By the way, he said a part of that quote when John Kelly, his former chief of staff, was standing over the grave of his fallen soldier son, okay? That man has no heart at all. Now they're trying to brag about how they're patriotic and care about the troops. Total fraud. But Anna's right, it's a great point. And we're the fairest show in America. So on the one hand, we'll point out Republicans awful on the woke stuff and the nonsense culture wars. And so when she was talking about that and the radical left, they ate that up. That's what I meant. They were like, oh yeah, good, give me more, right? Oh, they're so bad, they're so evil, right? We're the good guys, right? We're the sane ones, right? Okay, but when she turned to the rah-rah military war stuff, she overdid it.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
To be fair to the Republican voters, they're not who they used to be on that. And so they're a little tired of getting treated like suckers and losers as well. They're a little tired of dying for the war machine as well.
Yes, yep.
So that part I don't think played as well. So that's a great point. By the way, you could do a Republican speech and have some substance, and I would not necessarily agree with you on certainly most of it, but you could do a speech where you go, hey, and she mentioned this for half a second. We handed Biden a good economy. Well, look, there's parts of that that's relatively true. You could point to some good economic numbers under Trump and say, hey, that passed on to Biden. So you could have a substantive speech where you make the Republican position, right? She mentioned defund the police, and she can give examples of, well, you can't really give examples of defund the police because they didn't, but she can give examples of prosecutors or other progressive actions that they could argue led to more crime. So she could have chosen to focus on substance. Instead, she chose to focus on they're evil and they're trying to take government control and trying to take your freedom away. Meanwhile, when she's not talking about they're taking away books in Florida, empty shelves in libraries. They're banning books. They won't even let you say the word gay in schools. So and they're like, oh no, it's not the Don't Say Gay bill. You guys put that. Guys, literally, those teachers can get sued if they talk about gay parents, for example, because they can say, hey, you're promoting that because you're talking about it in a positive light. People have to take down pictures of their partners if they were gay, teachers, etc. So is that freedom? That's the exact opposite of freedom. Hey, if you're gay or trans or you're whatever, we will just stuff back in the closet and don't you dare try to be free, right? That's the reality of it. But again, the Republican voters love it when they're more vicious and when they lie more and pretend to be in favor of things they're not remotely in favor of.
Now, the only other thing I wanted to bring up is the area where I noticed the most specificity from Sarah Huckabee Sanders was on education. And man, is she chomping at the bit to privatize public education, which would be disastrous. So she specifically mentioned that teachers would get a nice pay raise under a privatized system. Guys, understand what private education means, right? I mean, there could be, I guess, private nonprofit institutions, but they want private business to get involved in grade school education. That means that there are gonna be shareholders involved. That means that might start off looking real appealing with higher pay for teachers. But once those shareholders want a higher return on investment, they will cut the salaries of those teachers. I guarantee it, because that's how the system works.
So look, I've read a lot about this. We've covered it on the show. The privatization schemes, first of all, they do not improve test scores at all. So that whole, we're gonna give your kids a chance. Second of all, wait, how are you giving them a chance? They have to pay for school. Public school was free, and now you're saying, we will help you with part of that cost, but the rest you're gonna have to pay, and then those guys are donors, and then they'll funnel some of the money back to us, and then we'll lie to you again, and we'll go through this circle. Meanwhile, you'll have lost public education, and if you're poor or middle class, your kids won't have opportunity anymore, but don't worry, the rich kids will all be in private schools. Ha ha, that's what that proposal is. So if a Republican is talking, a Republican is lying. In terms of politics, it is 98% of the time. So if they tell you they're gonna protect education, they're coming to gut education.
They are.
If they're telling you that they're bringing opportunity, that means they're looking to cut off your opportunity so that only the rich kids have the best options. If they're talking about freedom, that means they're in the middle of taking away your freedom. Okay, so that's what that ghoul and goblin Sarah Huckabee Sanders said tonight.
Yes, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm genuinely afraid that they're gonna accomplish what they want to accomplish with education. When they say they're gonna do something, that's the thing about the Republican Party. You gotta hand it to them. They're different from Democrats in that when they say they're gonna do something, sooner or later, they're gonna do it, okay? And so what's really concerning is that you have corporate Democrats who have kind of opened the door to privatizing education, beginning with the whole charter school scam that Obama's administration was very much in favor of. So we'll see what happens, but I am concerned. I think that's gonna be the next big accomplishment, if you wanna call it that, by the Republican Party.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
All right, all right, guys. So I'm gonna read a couple comments because I promised to you guys, and it's related, but I'm gonna give you an update here, and then we're gonna go to a bonus episode for just members for a little bit, okay? So number one, the progressive response, sorry. I was giving them credit for coming up with a good idea to do a progressive response every year. This is gonna be, I don't know, second or third year they were gonna do it. Working Families Party was organizing. Unfortunately, they did it at the same time as the Republicans. Don't do that, then we can't cover it. Ay. All right, anyway, good effort. Next time, do it at a different time. Even we couldn't cover it. None of the networks will cover it. No other outlet will cover it if it's at the same time as the Republican response. So anyways, it is what it is. Okay, hopefully, I don't know if that anybody will listen. So, but I did want to make you sure that you guys knew what was happening there. So I'll go to Super Chat real quick. Benjamin GL says, I wish Jon Stewart was here to mock this speech. Because, by the way, I mean, I think this was more in the Biden speech when he talked about the toxic pits, right? And he even gave credit to Republicans on that one. And the Republicans started doing a standing ovation. They fought it tooth and nail, which leads me to the one comment that I definitely wanted to make sure that we got in here from Eileen, who's in our member section at tyt.com, okay? If I can find it, because there's okay, here we go. I was on the steps of the Capitol building standing with the vets for the PACT Act. It wasn't the Democrats we were shouting against. I don't remember the bipartisanship on that. Okay, so she was there, and we all saw it with our own eyes, we covered it. The Republicans did not want to help first responders that responded on 9/11.
It's crazy.
They used 9/11 as a political gimmick and prop for decades. And now there's two different times that Jon Stewart had to single-handedly go and defeat them and get those first responders benefits. By the way, let's be honest. If Jon Stewart wasn't involved in that issue, are we sure the Democrats would have won on it?
No, I am not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So thank you to Jon Stewart for putting his thumb on the scale in that regard, because look, the weakness that we've seen by corporate Democrats, and I mean, we call it weakness, but part of it is they're corporate Democrats. They're funded by the same corporate donors. So when they campaign, they pretend like they're different from the Republican Party and want to fight against what the Republican Party represents. But when push comes to shove, after the elections, a lot of them work together on pro-corporate policies.
100%. So Dion Peters Lowak wrote in on the member section and wrote in, at this point, I'm willing to give zombie FDR a try. Because I was talking about how FDR didn't do speeches where he's like, oh, the other guys are great and I appreciate working with them. He gave a speech right before his biggest victory in 36 saying, I welcome their hatred. Okay, now that was a badass dude, okay? And he won 4 times. Right now, the mainstream media tells you if you're ever uncivil, you don't win. Donald Trump was president. What are you guys talking about, right? FDR kicked their ass, LBJ kicked their ass, and they were president, right? And so, and that's a way of getting you to lay down. So at this point, now that I'm watching The Last of Us, zombie FDR, okay, all right. Maybe we're having a conversation.
No, we could have a modern day FDR. We just need to have the same influencing factors in today's society that we had back then, which is strong labor power. The reason why he welcomed the hatred of the wealthy and his political opponents is because he had the backing of powerful labor unions that actually fought on behalf of their workers.
Yeah, all right, I love your guys' comments, so I'm gonna go do a couple more. Super Chat says, Lenny Boy on Super Chat says, TYT saved me from right-wing radicalization. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, that's great to hear. I didn't get a chance to read the comment earlier. I don't know if I could find it in the thousands of comments, but somebody said about Anna, that Anna helped them not be a right-winger anymore. So those comments are great. We love to see that. And thank you for all of you for keeping an open mind. That is critical to all of this. Pitchfork's Dragon with a funny comment. Great speech, Sarah. But can you pause between sentences more?
USA. USA.
USA.
USA.
USA.
USA. Well, like why? Why?
USA.
There it is. There it is.
By the way, nice
So
job, Bart.
charismatic.
Nice job, Bart. Bart runs audio for us. So, no, she does say it the way that I say it. She just says it with a little bit of a drawl, and as if she's like depressed, like okay, hold on.
Yeah,
Wait.
I'm very insulted by the disrespect she's showing to the USA.
Oh,
okay?
for sure. So hold on. Let's hear it again, Bart.
USA.
Yes,
USA. USA.
yes.
Okay. Benjamin GL says, I know for a fact even conservatives won't like her speech. Oh, interesting. Okay, Benjamin GL was super generous. I'm gonna read a couple of his comments. I'm gonna read one last funny one, and then we're gonna go to the bonus episode, okay? So Benjamin wrote in, I'm livid with both Cenk and Anna. Were looking away during the shot of Bernie fumbling his glasses. Someone in the control room needs to pull that up.
What?
I know.
How are we both looking away?
That is amazing. We barely ever looked away to just write notes or whatever. You're right. We missed it. And I was wondering, where's Bernie? Because they normally show Bernie in speeches, right? So sorry about that. What's that?
I showed him very early on.
I saw him early on. I didn't see him.
Yeah. Okay. Way to keep us honest, Benjamin. Okay. He wrote in my opinion, you guys should collaborate with Majority Report and other online left during big events like this to create progressive unity and cross-pollinate the audiences. So that's a good idea. It's an interesting idea. By the way, Emma, who's on Majority Report now, will come on the Friday Power Panels often. So we collaborate as much as humanly possible. And so we do our part in trying to bring in other progressives. We'll have Farron Cousins from Ring of Fire. We'll have David Pakman sometimes from David Pakman's show. We used to have others, but oh well. Okay, and Sean Blanford just wrote this in, and I love it. What is this?
Yes, I.
Yes, I.
USA.
Yes,
USA.
No, highlight of the night though. Highlight of the night. I love when we get new sound bites.
Absolutely. Okay, we gotta go, but Bart, one last time, and let him just the whole clip, okay?
USA. USA. USA.
We got more. TYT.com/join. Hit the join button below. If you want, spin, get an annual membership and probably win your money back. Anyway, maybe. TYT.com/spin for annual membership. We love you guys. Bonus episode for members right now. Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.